Howdy Ags, welcome to Aggie Growth Hacks, the podcast sponsored by the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M, where we help Ags improve their business, connect with other Aggie entrepreneurs, and support one another. I'm your host, Greg Martin, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2001.
And I'm your co-host, Chris Hunter, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 1998. Whoop!
Well, we got a little story for you, Ags. Justin Bateman, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2008, is president of Specialty Fleet Sales, a company that serves the niche market of power distribution companies by providing fleet vehicles of bucket trucks. Justin is the number 20 fastest growing Aggie entrepreneur in 2020, and he has absolute nerves of steel. You know exactly what we mean, and we are so excited to have this conversation with Justin.
So pass it back and listen up to Justin as he shares some good bull.
Well, Justin, welcome to Aggie Growth Hacks. Thank you so much for joining us today. Congratulations on your first of what I know is going to be many Aggie 100 wins. We're excited to party with you tonight. Thanks for being here.
Thank you guys very much for the opportunity and the invitation to come on board and kind of share a little bit of our story.
Yep. Well, we were talking a little bit beforehand, and you're one of the lucky few that still has a house here in College Station at the motherland. You know, you live outside of College Station, but you come back. But you come back as a former student. What do you miss about being a student?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I would say probably just, a piece of that sentence, being a student yourself, just kind of being around this atmosphere in this town. It's very unique. So I've been able to travel to a lot of Big 12 schools, a lot of SEC schools, and see the culture and the dynamic and the spirit really out of those other schools. And you just don't quite get that same feeling as you do kind of here in Aggie land. Whether you bump into, freshman year students or you bump into the 75-year-old retiree that decided to come back to Aggie land, it is just a really unique place in the country to come back to. And, as a student, you go enjoy all the activities on campus and a lot of the camaraderie that gets built and a lot of, lifelong relationships. It's kind of the foundation. But it's very hard to go top kind of the spirit of Aggie land and just being here full time and going through that experience, at A&M.
I totally get that. When I was in the Air Force, no one understood me. No one understood me, right? Except my commander that came in. She was from the Corps, so she completely got me.
Right.
At that point, I'm like, hey, I know some. We knew each other.
And it's an
really.
instant connection,
Yeah.
which is an unbelievable connection that you can kind of take those pieces in other places when you bump into other Aggies.
Absolutely. So every entrepreneur has a story, right? And that's one of my favorite things about Aggie Growth Hacks is really hearing the entrepreneurial journey and how did you get to where you are. So tell us a little bit about Specialty Fleet and how did you even get into that?
So Specialty Fleet is a sales and rental company, and we specialize in the equipment sector of the overhead utility equipment. So that meaning bucket trucks, digger derricks on the electric utility side. So all of your power companies, your power company trucks that you may not pay attention to every day, after listening to this, you may start seeing them more frequently. Yeah. But all of those equipment needs for all of that overhead power infrastructure, all of your overhead telecommunications infrastructure, whether that being cable TV, all your phone system, now broadband. So we are the equipment rental and suppliers of that type of equipment. It's a very unique industry. It's a very specific industry. We sell equipment all across the United States. We sell a lot of equipment outside of the U.S. And we rent equipment. And so it's really kind of a very, specific and unique industry that we operate in. Kind of going back to the entrepreneurial side of it is I have a lot of that kind of, heritage and into my genes. So obviously going back to both grandfathers, we're family, business owners. Both of, my parents both operate business. So I was always raised in, family business and family ownership. And really a lot of my plan in coming to school at A&M and going through is really thought probably at that time I would go back and take over, some portion of a family business. Is kind of you get outside of that and you start wanting to broaden. What I really wanted to go do is go see how other people ran their business. I knew how, my family runs their business,
Right.
but everybody is very unique in the way that they want to run their business and business decisions and growth. And I had a very great opportunity in going to work for a company in our same industry. And really what my experience was that I gained was I had a lot of experience and saw firsthand in regional, in local kind of entrepreneurial businessship. And getting over into really what we do on a global side and nationally is you learn the different kind of business techniques that are used around the world and in different portions and different segments of the U.S. And so, really probably that has led to us, our growth rate, kind of our success story in specialty fleet, in being able to kind of understand the kind of that local relationship where the people that you're doing business with. You can do a lot of stuff on a handshake, and really kind of your last name means a lot, versus on a global level where you kind of get into contracts and in the trust level.
What's the document say?
What does the document say? And so there's nothing wrong with whether you're growing a business on a local or regional scale or on a national or global scale, but the dynamic of the business and how the business transactions operate are almost 180 degrees separate. And so that's probably been most of what I've learned the most in being able to kind of figure out the difference in between those two. And there's a lot of companies that we operate that still kind of have that handshake, and then you get into the big corporation companies and it is what the document says.
Right.
And every T crossed, every I dotted, and that's the way they operate. And so being able to operate your business and be able to pivot based off of that, with the size of the business, has probably been some of our most successful reaction in versus some of the very large corporations in our industry that just lose touch of dealing with those smaller business. From us in a customer base, it's a true owner operator entrepreneurial, all the way up to a global business that actually has connections and are running our equipment globally.
Mm-hmm. So that's a really unique skill set that you and your team have to have. Do you have teammates that have that depth of the ability to deal with a Fortune 100 company and a mom and pop handshake? Or do you say, okay, you're going to kind of specialize in these types of clients because that's what they expect versus the large ones? Yeah,
so we really have both. We've got guys on our team that we work with, like for instance on the sales side. We've got some connections and guys that promote some of our product that were ex-linemen. So they are actually the guys out running the trucks. Mm-hmm. So your smaller business, your owner-operators, they can connect with that person on a much deeper basis because they've been out doing the work. They understand that work. Taking that guy into a boardroom and talking to, CEOs, fleet managers, vice presidents of a divisions, that's not your guy that you want to take in there because they're more the nuts and the bolts and kind of understand the equipment side, right, versus taking a different team member in that understands the business operations, more of like speccing the equipment. The guys in the boardrooms aren't the guys running the trucks. And sometimes the bigger the corporation, those are the decision makers versus the guy, down that are actually the owner operator. And then it's very difficult sometimes to take, the guy that's much better in the boardroom situation and him being able to connect with the owner operator because he's never actually been in the equipment. He's never used the equipment. So it's very two separate dynamics, and we try to do our best to kind of push those off, based off of what our customer base is and kind of what the meetings are for. And it's just two totally separate dynamics that we try to split the best we can.
Well, Justin, you're obviously a fast-growing Aggie entrepreneur. Again, Aggie 100 winner in 2021. And you've been in this industry for a long time, even before you started this company. But what has been special about this company? What was the thing that kind of crossed the tipping point that really allowed you to accelerate and become one of the fastest growing Aggie entrepreneurs?
So probably one of the biggest things that has allowed for a lot of our success and the growth of our success has been the networking relationships that over time in, the years that, straight out of college and going straight into the industry, that you don't realize at the time early on that you're building kind of a big pathway of connections and networking out there. And really the way that you present yourself and the way that you operate, whether it's your business or maybe you're working for somebody else. And in my case, at the time when I was developing these relationships, I really had no intentions or no forecast of maybe doing this on my own one time until the door opened. But, the way that you present yourself and kind of the honesty of, the way you do business and really, the integrity in the way you do business. Mm-hmm. And what I found was, many years later when I got ready to do this on my own, no one ever starts a business on their own. Right. It's a lot of mentorship. It's a lot of connections. And when I decided, hey, I think this is what I want to go do, it's a very big decision, especially when you're walking away from a check that comes every Friday versus, hey, it's feast or famine. Yep. I'm out going to go make my own living. Yep. And to go step out on that, you need a lot of people around you. And a lot of guidance. And so what I found was probably some of the most successful was those relationships and that networking that I had built over those years, where I reached out to, suppliers and said, hey, I think I'm going to go do this, but I have, would you do business with me? Would you give me terms on my name? And that was really what got us off the ground, is that people were willing to do business with us and give us terms out the gate, and really probably overstep what they really should have done to help us get going, to help us be successful. And you don't realize that you're building all of those connections at the time, over those years. And, there are businesses that operate in different forms and fashions. We always wanted to be very truthful with our clients, with our vendors. Treat your vendors just as well as you do your customers. Pay your bills on time. There's just a lot of facets and pieces that go along with that, and really you're just building a level of trust there. And they knew that obviously we were a startup business. They had no business history with us, but they had business dealings with myself. And then when you start telling them, hey, we're going to bring on, some of our old team members, and they're familiar with some of those old team members, and they kind of understand how you're going to run your business, and they kind of give you the one chance. And really you have the one chance to prove yourself as, hey, we're going to continue the relationship and the way that we do business the way we did previously, or, you kind of burn that bridge, right out the gate. And we just had guys step out on limbs that were, that really shouldn't have.
But then to give yourself credit, you stepped up too.
Yeah. So that's that's the follow up. That's the follow up. They can put it on the tee, but you still have to get up there and swing the bat. Yeah. And just having the opportunity of guys giving you a chance to go get up to bat, that was probably that's a huge challenge, and it's a huge challenge for a lot of startup businesses, is having a network of people around you that will give you that opportunity. I had a lot of ambition to go start this, but I still had to have a lot of guys give me the chance to actually step up to the plate to give them a result.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's pretty much any entrepreneur, right? I mean, you've got to have a network, whether that's your wife, your parents, your people that you've met along the way, to help build that up.
Yeah, the great thing about that is, whether it's family or other business colleagues that are kind of helping you along, what I found is people are very grateful, and they like to be a part of a growth story. Yeah. And, they're willing to kind of step out on a limb, and when you follow up on doing what you'll do for them, and it's not just, giving you lines of credit. it's giving you a lot of advice along the way.
Right? Credit helps, right?
Yeah, credit definitely helps. Credit definitely helps. But
It's funny you said that.
yeah,
Right.
The
banker,
marketer,
right?
not the banker.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. So the credit never hurts. But giving you kind of their advice. The result in that is that most of these are business owners, whether, I had my parents that have been business owners for 40 plus years. I saw grandfathers that did business for 50 and 60 years. And obviously as things progress in technology, business changes, but, a lot of business techniques stay the same. And whether, it's pouring out knowledge where, these guys want to call, I was getting phone calls almost weekly of people calling in that we did business together, but after hours they would call and check in and say, hey, how are things going? What are your challenges that you're having?
Now talk about business. Are you
having
Justin?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Justin having and it went in the dialogue of that changes in, hey, you also have a family, so don't forget that. And so you kind of get down into a personal level, and a lot of these guys, they do want to pour that 40 years of knowledge out into, somebody else coming up.
That's what I love about entrepreneurship.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's great. And, people are willing, if you will listen, and that's the flip side. So you do see some out there where they do come in and go, I'm doing this on my own.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the smartest one at the table.
Good luck.
I hope that I'm never the smartest one at the table.
Right.
Hopefully I'm sitting at a table that, I've got either a person on our team or an advisor that's much more intelligent on the financial side than what I am. Hopefully I have somebody on our team or, an advisor that's much more intelligent than the nuts and bolts of the operation than I am. And being able to kind of go find, whether it's people on your team or, professionals that are willing to kind of give you that advice, I think that's a lot of the success. Is I don't ever want to be the smartest guy at the table. I just want to be at the guy at the table that can kind of bring everybody together, and really that's that's the baseline for most successes. Mm-hmm. Most successful companies are that way.
Yeah.
One of the most successful guys in the automotive industry was Lee Iacocca. When he came into Chrysler and was trying to fix the problem, he said, we're not going to fix the problem in the boardroom. We're going to fix the problem in the lunchroom. And actually, as the president of a company, didn't try to sit around with a lot of other executives and go figure out their problems. He went and sat actually and ate lunch with the guys on the shop floor to figure out actually what the problems were. Yeah. And very uniquely, a lot of times the people that know the problems actually have a pretty good idea on how to fix the problems. And so, that's what I always try to keep in the back of my mind, is that every part of an organization, everybody has a little piece. And if you'll actually ask the question and then sit back and listen, you may take somebody's idea and can kind of craft that into a very clever solution versus not actually doing their job and trying to figure out a solution on your own.
Yeah. Make sure you soundbite that. That's great.
All right, before the next question, we're going to take a quick pause here to hear from our sponsor. And we're back. So next question is really centered around, we all have challenges. We all face challenges, right? Every entrepreneur in the entire world faces challenges on a daily basis. And we've talked about this year over and over again of the past year and a half, right? We're not even going to go there. But so far in the lifespan of your business, what's been the biggest challenge that you faced, and how have you hacked that to overcome it?
So really probably our biggest challenge that we've had is today, on two sides. One being a major supply chain issue, and it's not unique to our business or our industry. It's really globally. Yep. And so the supply chain we are really starting to see that impact. Going back to the early COVID days, this was actually a lot of my fear, and it really wasn't is current as it is now. So my fear is if all the businesses shut down for us, being in our business, obviously a big part of our business is refurbishing and making repairs on our equipment. So whether it's, on the used side of our company where we're bringing in, used assets and refurbishing them and then remarketing those on a secondary market, or it's our rental fleet that comes back in that just needs just general maintenance and repairs before it goes back out to a rental customer. My fear is if everything shut down, all the businesses shut down, an auto parts store, they shut down. We can't get parts.
Yeah.
Our customers still have needs. There's still power lines and utility lines that have to be maintained. So us as an equipment company still has a demand, but if we can't repair and fix our product, we can't get our product to our customer. And at the beginning, my thought was if our supply houses close and we can't get components, that was my biggest fear. Or maybe they could not get the parts from their warehouses actually to, from the distribution centers to the retail houses. That was a lot of my concerns. So what we did is we were very used to just-in-time inventory. So really kind of to keep cash off of the shelves. We were leaning very heavily on our suppliers as we needed components to order them, and it was very common to be able to get them same day, next day. And it's, that's across the board to a lot of industries where instead of housing a lot of parts and components where we have a lot of our capital tied up, really in stranded assets sitting on the shelf until the need arises, where we kept the cash in the account and we ordered those parts same day, next day. And so what we elected to do is really kind of ramp up our inventory levels and, on the used equipment side. So we took very early on when COVID kind of started hitting, we made a list of a pretty good group of our inventory and said, instead of ordering this stuff as we bring the trucks in for repairs, we're going to order everything we need for this truck at one time. We're going to put it in a box and we're just going to put it on the shelf. And we're going to try not to use those parts unless we sell that specific asset or we need that piece of equipment. So my thought process was, if we have the parts, even if everything shuts down, we still have 30 or 60 days worth of work for our company that doesn't shut us down. And hopefully at the very beginning, no one ever thought it was going to last this long. Surely we would have a solution within 30 or 60 days.
Right.
We go back
2
to
weeks,
normal,
right? 2
and
weeks.
we get back to life.
By the fall, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, so that was the early thought process. So that's really kind of how we tried to hedge that. Now we're getting, now we're a year and a half later, and now we're seeing the true supply chain issues from our chassis vendors. So, from the automotive side, we can't get chassis for new equipment to get built because they don't have the microchips.
It's just gone
The
upstream.
microchip thing, right?
And so this has truly affected our business. So it affects us on two folds. So we can't get equipment, none of our new equipment's coming in because the chassis aren't, the chassis manufacturers can't complete the chassis, which means they can't get our aerials mounted on the trucks. That's not unique to us. It's across the board, which means there's no other new equipment coming in. So, again, the big portion of our business is used equipment coming from these utilities that may be 5 or 6 year old trucks that they're replacing. They're not replacing it anymore. They're not replacing them because they can't get the new trucks. So there's nothing coming in the top of the pipeline, which means there isn't anything coming out the bottom of the pipeline. Yeah. So what we're seeing is our inventory levels drastically shrinking, and the demand for our product with all of the, telecommunications and fiber build out. So our demand for the equipment is almost at probably a historical high for our industry, but the quantity of the equipment is extremely limited.
Yeah.
So we try to do a few things in going up and ramping up our inventory. I was very graciously blessed with some information from one of our chassis manufacturers early on that said, hey, this microchip thing is coming.
Yeah.
When I heard it the first time, I thought, you can't tell me that a national, chassis manufacturer isn't going to be able to produce vehicles. Right. After about 30 days, and you started hearing it from multiple manufacturers, I thought, you know what, this is a very unique time that we've never crossed before. And so we took a huge gamble, and really it is just beginning to pay off. So we had we had one of our team members go and really search the country in truck chassis that would meet our spec that we could mount utility equipment on. And so we bought as many of those across the country as we could at one time.
Wow.
A huge,
Talk about stacking cash.
a huge
right.
gamble. And from a banker standpoint, there was a lot of comments that said, you better be right on this. This is literally doubling down with all your chips. Not necessarily on just red or black. We were picking a specific number to put all of our chips on. Right. And it was either going to be extremely successful with the company, or it was going to be extremely detrimental to the company, just because we were layering on so much debt at one specific time. And so we made that gamble. I tried to do a lot of research, and it seemed to be a very constant message across the board that this wasn't going to be a short-term fix. And so we made the investment. I decided to pull the trigger, make the investment. And so we bought as many trucks as we could across the country. And now we are one of the very few in our industry that are actually going to have some new product hitting ground before year end.
Wow. All right, so Aggie 100 2022 number 1.
That's what I hope.
That's what I just heard.
Right.
That's what I just heard. We're going to have amazing growth.
Yeah. So next year our growth hopefully should be exponentially higher. Year after that, now we're in the same boat with everybody else. Nobody can get trucks. So after
it's
this,
all fixed by then. Right?
Yeah. Let's cross our fingers that we're back to normal.
That's right.
And the roll of the dice definitely paid off. But so that was one of the things that we did. Is a company, in every successful company probably has a crossroads there, in being able to do that. We had a plan, and we've kind of stuck to it, but it wasn't just a plan that I woke up one day and thought, hey, let's go do this and let's go roll the dice.
Build that team.
Before we did this, I did a lot of research. I reached out to a lot of people across different, chassis manufacturers, and it was a very constant message. If it wouldn't have been a constant message, we would have never made that large of a capital investment to go acquire, that many units across the country and have them all shipped in just so that we would have them. And so, being able to kind of go out and take that information and then act on it, versus a lot of companies that don't want to take a lot of that risk, that has the information and they look back and go, they got lucky.
Well, Justin, let's kind of roll around. I mean, you have given us a lot of good information, but let's roll into the lightning round.
All right.
So 30 seconds or less on all these questions, but what is your favorite hack?
So I would say probably my favorite hack that has been instrumental for me personally and professionally is really an airplane. And I know that probably comes across is a unique hack, but for me what it does is it's a time machine. So for every entrepreneur, you can never have enough time. That's what we're trying to create every day. Whether it's the way you operate your business, whether it's the way you operate your professional time when you're in the office, or it's the time that you have personally with your family, is you're trying to maximize every minute of your day as an entrepreneurial, because every minute does count, whether it is on the personal side or it is professional. And so I've got my private pilot's license, and really we've been able to use an aircraft as an extremely good tool.
I just heard Justin say we're going to LSU.
I know, right?
Yeah. That's what
I heard. Stop down here in Aggie Lane.
Pick everybody else up.
I'm pretty sure that's what I heard.
Yeah. The challenge with being the pilot is everybody on the rest of the plane's really getting to enjoy their trip, and you're having to be the you're having to be the one responsible one of the whole trip. So that is the one downside.
I thought there was like autopilot or something like that, right?
That sounds like a problem.
They frown upon that when you kind of start having as much fun as everybody else does on the airplane sometimes. But that's probably been the number one thing for me and us as a company, in being able to go out and talk to those customers face to face versus doing it on over the phone. Is that we do try to go get in front of those customers. In a lot of situations that we're in as a company, if you were going to travel through the airlines or wherever that may be, you're talking you're going to lose potentially two full days of your week, where we can actually utilize that as an extremely effective tool in our business, where you can go out and be back. What may take you, 5 hours to drive, I can fly it in about 45 minutes. So what it allows me to do is go have those very effective in-person meetings, whether it's a customer meeting or a vendor meeting, and then get back to the office, and you're sitting in the office by noon, and you kind of finish out your day versus, totally losing 1 or 2 days of your time driving 5 hours, having a 2 or 3 hour meeting, getting back in the truck. And it allows you to spend, that balance of time with family. The other unique thing about, kind of flying is that you do have to, be responsible and pay attention. Yeah. And so, kind of when you are flying, it is kind of your own peace of mind. You're not thinking about, everything that's going on at the office or in the business. You're kind of focused on flying that airplane. And so it is definitely, kind of a great personal stress relief. I always call it the most stressful, non-stress thing that you'll ever do is probably go fly an airplane. Yeah. Is because it is a great stress relief from everyday life, but you're just focused on other things during that time. To go do that.
Not crashing.
Right, not crashing, exactly. And I love that. So next question, right? What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Some of the best advice is, integrity, honesty, and, kind of customer service or customer solution. So unfortunately, the world that we live in, the customer service and customer, if you want to call it customer service or call it customer solution, I like customer solution a whole lot better than customer service. But there are less and less interactions from a business to business standpoint where the customer service is there, all the way down from just renting a hotel room to everyday business. A lot of people are frustrated, obviously, with supply chain. They just, are just kind of getting beat up every single day. And what, a lot of, from early family business and like I said earlier, where a handshake and your last name means a lot. In different parts of the world and different parts of the business is not the way that some businesses operate.
It's a sad truth, but
it's the sad truth in business, and that's the hard part. It was actually one of the hardest parts probably for me, professionally to learn. I grew up in East Texas. A lot of people in East Texas and in Texas in general, they can shake your hand and it means something to them. Their reputation means a lot to a lot of people. You get in other parts of the country and that's not the case. Yeah. And that was probably one of the hardest lessons is, shaking somebody's hand based off of, previous experience and the way you were raised and a lot of your morals. And it ties back into, coming to A&M and buying into a lot of the tradition and a lot of the, the integrity and the Aggie Code of Honor is that's just not the case around the world and a lot of businesses, here in the U.S. And so that was probably some of the best advice is don't ever lose that. Is no matter what corner you get backed into, people will always respect it, whether you're the guy that has to take the black eye or not. Stand up, give the bad news if you have to give the bad news. People may not appreciate it at the time you give it, but when they look back, they definitely know the way that you operate. And that's kind of how and why that we've kind of grown the company in the culture that we've tried to create is that, whether it's, the entry-level person that joins our organization all the way up, to myself, is I want to be surrounded by people with those same, with that same integrity. Yep. And that definitely shows up in the customer experience. It shows up in the quality of product that we produce. Mm-hmm. Obviously, my biggest worry is as you scale a business, how do you keep that culture in close tacks as you possibly can? Because as you add, as you scale a business, it's harder to keep that wrapped around. So, kind of what our goal is if we can try to build a very core base of people with that, is they layer up underneath them that same, core integrity pushes out kind of throughout the same organization as we scale the business.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for spending time on today. That you're celebrating a great win for you and your team. I mean, I've heard throughout this entire conversation that it is not about you. It's about the people that are around you, that work with you and outside. How can Aggie entrepreneurs, fellow Aggies, get in touch with you to maybe have you, to pick your brain, to allow you to speak into their life?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to speak with anybody, so they can reach out. They can find us, they can find our company on Facebook. They can reach out. They can go to our website.
Which is what?
Specialtyfleet.com.
Specialtyfleet.com.
So they can pull up the website. They can send in that. They can reach out through Aggie Growth Hacks. And you guys have all of, my personal contact information. I've got no problem. Like I said, if I can repay kind of what was paid to me in, advice and, kind of guidance and being able to check in and really even connections. So that's kind of been a big part of our success too, is that people like to connect you with other people that they think can help you be successful. So, if I can help, people that have helped us, I would love to kind of, continue that network with other Aggies out there, or just other entrepreneurs out there that are, that may be struggling, in some different facets, if we can potentially help.
That's what we're all about here at Aggie Growth Hacks. So, yeah.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it and can't wait to celebrate with you tonight.
Thank you guys very much.
Well, how about that, Ags? Was that a great story or what? There were some super valuable hacks that Justin shared with us. What was your favorite, Greg?
Chris, I mean, Justin, I said it at the beginning. I'm going to say it again. Justin has nerves of steel. I mean, when he talked about how he looked forward and was talking with all of his suppliers and hearing about this chip shortage and the supply chain issue, what did he do? He didn't cower and he didn't say, okay, well, how are we going to figure it out? He's like, no, let's bet, and let's bet big. But isn't that what entrepreneurship is about? Is trusting yourself and your team and knowing that, but betting on things that you can control and betting with information. So it's not quite, going to Vegas and putting it all on black, but I mean, the courage that guy has, amazing. What about you?
Well, I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, that was going to be my hack, but you stole it. No, I'm just kidding. But
that's why I go first, right? Because I'm unimaginative.
So mine was kind of cool. The airplane, right? So the simple fact that he cuts down on his time, right, on in-person meetings and getting to those in-person meetings simply by getting on an airplane. Not only getting on an airplane, but flying his own airplane. And I'm pretty sure he committed to flying us to the LSU game, right?
I'm pretty sure. I don't think we're going to make that happen in a couple of weeks from when we're recording this, but in 2 years, baby. I mean, so check out our Instagram 2 years from now. That'd be 2023. Check out the Aggie Growth Hacks Instagram and we'll be there at LSU. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Aggie Growth Hacks. We hope that you enjoyed it, and we hope that you connect with Justin. We also hope that you connect with Aggie Growth Hacks on LinkedIn, Instagram, and that you join us on our Facebook group where we're continuing the conversation with Aggie entrepreneurs. Chris and I would love to connect with you personally and share your episode. Why is that so hard? I don't know. Chris and I would love to connect with you personally and maybe share your story on a future episode of Aggie Growth Hacks. Finally, be sure to check out our website, aggiegrowthhacks.com, where you can listen to previous episodes as well as check out some of our other content.
Aggie Growth Hacks was produced by fellow Aggies Kyle Ackerman and Ben Wiggins with Podcast Architects. We also want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M University. Since 1999, the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship has served as the hub of entrepreneurship for Texas A&M. If you're an Aggie entrepreneur or even a wantrepreneur, head on over to their website and find a program that's right for you. Just search up the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship in Google and head over there right now. Join us next time when we connect with another great Aggie entrepreneur and learn how they hack their growth. Until then, I'm Chris Hunter.
And I'm Greg Martin. Thanks and gig 'em.